you very much, Trent. And welcome everybody to the ServeCon data panel. I'm Mike Dores. I'm the owner of Mike Dores Investigations. I've been in the data business selling data since 1991 with a company called Merlin Information Services, which I founded and I was the president of until we sold out a couple of years ago. I'm a licensed private investigator since 1980, and my company today specializes in skip tracing and asset location. Amanda, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for having me, Mike. My name's Amanda DuPont. I'm with Thomson Reuters. I'm an attorney here at the company. I'm what's called a public records product specialist, which means I work the development side of our company as well as the sales side of our company, and I specialize in investigative solutions for Thomson Reuters.
Thank you. Neil?
Hey, Mike, how are you doing? My name is Neil Cadell. I'm the manager over here of Specialized Risk Group. I handle what's considered the locate investigative markets, which consist of the great process servers that are out there, as well as private investigators, repo agents, and bail bondsmen. I'm a licensed investigator since 1986.
All right, thanks. And Robert Scott?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Thanks for having me today. I'm Robert Scott. I'm the founder and creator of SkipSmasher.com, the online data service used by skip tracers, and my team and myself also run a couple other websites. One is a free public record website called blackbookonline.info, and also spydialer.com. Thank you, Mike.
All right, Robert. All right, Robert, let me start the discussion by asking you a question about whether you think that process serving companies should be offering skip tracing services to their clients.
Yeah, I think absolutely, as long as they can find a business model that works for them and works for their clients, absolutely.
All right. And what is it about the types of jobs that a process serving company is likely to get that lends itself to what we'll call less than experienced skip tracers being able to do the work?
Right. Well, a lot of times, you know, the process serving companies are getting addresses that are not verified by their clients. They're just hoping that the process server will go out there and make a good serve. But when they don't do that, that's the opportunity for the process serving company to turn around and make money with an extra service to offer. But the problem is, for them, they've got to be able to pay off and make the locate and get the locate done. All
right. Let me ask you, Neil. Neil, do you think that, in general, that the types of jobs that a process-serving company would get, skip trace jobs, are difficult jobs in the scheme of things? Neil?
Yeah, Mike, I would say they are difficult in the sense of who the sourcing of the job would be. A lot of times you'll find in the legal profession, the lawyer will just have some papers that need to be served, and they don't do any pre-scrubbing. They don't spend the time to look through the documents they have in their office. So they'll send over, hey, I want to serve John Smith, who was on Main Street, you know, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Well, in fact, that might be an address they had from a, you know, interrogatory from, you know, 1990, where they could have looked in their documents and had seen that there was a possible face sheet that had a better address, you know, from the incident in question. So in commenting more on that, I would say that it is a tough job. The process server should make a very good relationship with the attorney that is hiring him in order to, at times, go into the office and read through the documents so that they get the best information, so that when they hit a database, be it an open source or a paid database, they're using the right parameters to search for them. That makes their job a lot easier.
All right. And Amanda, is your experience that collections type skip tracing is more difficult than the standard type of skip trace that an attorney would normally run at your database?
That's an interesting question. I would say I see, and I get to work with all types of accounts from collections to our private investigators to just our pure skip tracing outsource element type businesses. It seems like I see a range. So I wouldn't say one's harder than the other. I would say from my vantage point, I see users who become experts. So even at a skip tracing environment, I have a lot of process serving to do. I'm seeing a move towards seeing somebody who has some expertise within that process serving environment who can run the skip traces. They almost become as good as the collectors out there who frankly can find you and anything about you pretty quickly from what I see on my end.
Amanda, I'm wondering if you have any opinion as to the difference in skill sets between what we would call an investigator, an experienced investigator who mostly does skip tracing, and a process server or a collection agency where it's more of a part-time skip tracing effort.
Well, absolutely. The trained investigator is going to have a better skill set on investigating from a skip tracing perspective. Where does a subject live today? I don't see how you could replicate that if you're just sporadically approaching that type of business on hard-to-do skips and hard-to-do subjects.
All right. One thing I noticed over the years as a skip tracer with an attorney service in Los Angeles, and then doing work for other attorney services over the years, is that in general, skip tracing jobs that come from process serving companies are actually easier jobs than jobs that would come from a collection agency, let's say, because a lot of the times the people you're looking for are not hiding. Maybe they just moved. It's just an old address. So I think in general, the process servers do have an opportunity to pick up, to do skip tracing that really wouldn't be as hard as the types of jobs that a standard investigator might get. So that's my own experience as a skip tracer for a process serving company. Let me ask you, Robert, do you think that having servers in-house that can run out to verify an address that's found from a database, do they have an advantage over an investigator, for instance, who doesn't have a load of process servers that could hit the streets?
Oh, absolutely, Mike. I mean, that is in my view, that is the inherent kind of business advantage and skip tracing advantage that this process serving company is going to have if they've got multiple, servers out in the field. Because, as you well know, half of the skip tracing game is finding possible addresses, but the other half is verifying or eliminating those addresses. And private investigators are usually pretty expensive to get out in the field. So if you've got a lot of people out in the field who can do address checks and they know how to do address checks, that is a clear advantage that a process serving company would have for sure.
All right, great. And that's my experience as well. Neil, do you have any sense of what the personality traits of a good skip tracer are? We're dealing with process serving companies who may not have a skip tracer in-house. They want to choose an individual or a couple of individuals from their staff to be trained into at least doing some of the easier jobs that come through. What kind of personality traits would you say that they're looking for in a potential skip tracer?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. What I found personally with dealing with the people that I had work for me, my previous vocation with my PI agency, the people that I typically would hire were not always the retired police officer because they were always under a timeline. I found that the people that served the best papers or got me the best data back were the people that had the most persistence, the most doggedness. The person that might go out at 6:30 in the morning to an address or go out there at 8:30 in the evening. It's not a 9 to 5 job. Somebody that is passionate about doing what they're doing. I mean, you can be passionate about pumping gas at the Shell station, and I love that guy. But I want a guy that's going to work for me or work out there who's going to not just go to a database and open source and find the one address, and just run with that. Typically, it's not going to be the right address. You need to dig a little bit deeper, and you need to corroborate and verify information that you're given, also information that you found on a database or open source, and you need some checks and balances. So in my experience, some of the younger guys and some of the older guys have been on both sides of the spectrum, have been the best skip tracers that I've ever come across.
Okay, so persistence is a trait that you're looking for. Somebody that doesn't give up, basically.
Absolutely. You're going to be handed a lot of the service is easy. It might be from a car accident case, insurance case, medical malpractice case, a simple divorce case. You might have the right address, but you might keep showing up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, that guy's not going to be there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He's more probably at work. You keep going back to 3 times, then you do the nail and mail, and then the attorneys turn back and say it wasn't good service. So you want to make sure you got somebody that knows their business, somebody that appreciates what they're doing. Unfortunately, there's process server companies out there that work in huge volumes. They'll pay their process server $20 a service. Well, that guy's out there probably doing this for a number of years and just piling through the amount of services he's doing without care. Unfortunately, it's not everybody. I'm just saying there's a small quantity of them out there just trying to do strict quantity so they can make money.
So, Neil, can you talk a little bit about, let's say that a process serving company doesn't currently have a skip tracer working for them, and you wanted to pick one of your staff to become a skip tracer, at least part-time. What do you think are the personality traits of a good skip tracer? What should that process serving company's owner be looking for in the individual that they bring in to be a skip tracer?
Yeah, Mike, the first trait I would look for is someone that's tech savvy, somebody that kind of understands the social media that's out there these days, somebody who understands how to navigate through Google for example. Somebody that is comfortable in spending time, not too much time, but in doing their research and what they might do in their other vocation for the company. But just somebody that has a stick-to-itness that might translate into getting better addresses for service for the process servers that are going to go out and serve.
All right. I've also found that really good skip tracers are generally very organized because they're handling a lot of jobs at the same time, and they're also pretty creative, which is a difficult personality combination, to be organized and creative and persistent all at the same time. But for a part-timer, 2 out of 3 is probably good. So good answer there. Amanda, let me ask you, and I'll ask all of you this question. What if a process serving company is now looking to choose a database company? What is it that that the process serving company should consider when they're making that choice for which database company they should use for their skip tracing?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the number one question facing this. Frankly, there's a gamut of resources out there, and let's just be honest, all 3 of us on the panel represent different types of entities in this particular space. But having just left a panel where I talk to industry leaders in general on what they're looking for and kind of what is critical, and this is in the insurance space. This is who actually sends you guys the business, right? The insurance litigators in general, fraud investigations, I'm thinking the housing market litigation that came from just to all the process serving that arises out of those industries. They say the key is the best information you can get your hands on. And I define the best information you can get your hands on as being the most current information you can get your hands on. And I single-handedly think that is a differentiator regardless of who you go to. You absolutely have to ask how current is the data I'm getting. And here's just an example to throw at you. I was just at an event. A government investigator, actually a law enforcement official, said how they caught a fugitive I don't know what the crime was, but it really doesn't matter. And the fugitive was caught, frankly, by looking in Clear, my platform, but again, it could be any platform. And the reality was that fugitive who had an old address, he literally just did a utility hookup. He was in the process of moving, and that brand new utility record came into their database, so they were able to apprehend him very quickly. So I just would answer that by saying, to me, you really do have to know your kind of time, date, stamp, freshness date on any vendor you're talking to in this space.
Okay, so Robert, pretty much along the same lines, because I agree, I think data freshness is extremely important. But can you tell me the best way, other than the posted reported dates, which I believe we all understand, especially when it comes to address histories, the reported dates are not necessarily the correct dates, the dates that somebody moved in and moved out of an address. How can you, as a process server determining what database to use, how can you more easily determine, or what's the best way to determine who's got the most current data, especially in an address history?
Yeah, well, Mike, that's the million-dollar question, really. And you're only going to really know who's got the best data by trying the data from those data services and seeing where you have success most of the time. Because there's some data services you'll run and they'll show an up-to-date address. You get out in the field and find out that the people moved out 2 years ago. So I would say that any process serving company that's looking for a data service, obviously they're looking for data quality, aka freshness, and pricing. To be sure, but really what I would recommend is all of the data companies provide a free trial. I would say take advantage of the free trials, try them all, and see what works best for you consistently over a number of cases. One mistake that a lot of skip tracers or investigators make when they're kind of taking a new data service for a test drive is the first thing they do when they log in is they run themselves. And if they don't like that result compared to what they got on another data service, they will decide that this is not a great data service. Well, in fact, the reality is on one search, one data service will probably have a superior record, and on the next search, another data service might have it. So in my view, only by running a number, meaning a minimum of dozens of searches, can you really get a qualified view of the quality of the data that the data service is pitching out there to you. I would also say, though, having said that all skip tracers, investigators, process servers have to have a minimum of 2 quality data services because we don't all have the same data. Some service may have something that another doesn't have, and there's also the issue of from time to time services go down. And if you're under pressure to deliver a workload, you've got to know that you've got another data service that's ready to use that you can fire up and keep working. Thanks, Mike.
All right, excellent points, Robert. Neil, do you have anything else to add about how a process serving company should choose their database? And can you also tell me, and I'll go back and ask each of you this, something about your service that sets you apart from the other services that are out there?
Appreciate that question. I'll just play a video back here. No, just kidding. And to follow up from what Robert said, you do need to have a waterfall scenario in place in order to have an effective mechanism in place to work your addresses, and you can copy that same waterfall scenario with your whole business model. And typically a process server will learn their model. But where I disagree a little bit with Robert, time is of the essence with a lot of these. And when a customer, new consumer, new process server gets out there, tries out the free trial on a database, I welcome them to utilize themselves as a test model. I feel real confident in our database, the TLXP by TransUnion database, that you will find the information that you're looking for. But like I had mentioned earlier, we do need to have varied sources to verify what you're finding. And touching back on the from to dates and the freshest of data, that also varies by database. And you do need the top address that a database shows you isn't typically the most up-to-date address that's out there. I tell my customers to look at the from-to date, the from date being more important than the to dates, and match them up against maybe the top 3 addresses or a couple of the addresses you see with maybe with a secondary database or even some open source research. What I like about our database as opposed to the other databases out there is the linkage of data. We're going to get you to your address, to other markers, to cell phone, to non-published numbers, even with a vehicle sighting search that will show you where somebody's been seen in recent days, quicker and more effectively. But I do endorse, obviously, again, I'll say again, the use of multiple platforms. So
all right. All right, thank you. Amanda, can you tell us something that you feel sets your Clear product apart from the other products out in the marketplace?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with the panel that there's absolutely a variety of sources out there. Where I have found we sit very comfortably in this space is we offer a flat rate model. Obviously, we can get into just the fact that you could have a fixed cost around using a product like that, and that is a big differentiator in this space because typically our accounts in the skip tracing environment have a lot of accounts are skip tracing, so they really can have a main driver of where they go start their work. But I think a trend we haven't dipped into here, and it can be a scary trend, but you have to be forward thinking, is the power of algorithms. And yes, interpreting data is very important to everybody, but what a report can do today by literally leveraging algorithms in these computer programs, I'm blown away on a daily basis when I sit with accounts and can quickly determine I have nothing to do with this account, but I can tell you where that subject lives and how to do effective service of process in a second. And so I have found it's just frankly, it's not so much as any one thing here, it's just the leveraging of a report algorithm. And I think our product does that great. So, you guys will always have guaranteed jobs on the hard skips, but there's a lot of easy skips out there, and I see a lot of over-interpreting of easy skips where I just send somebody out and get it done. And that, I think, is the beauty of what at least I find Clear can bring to the market here.
All right, thank you. And Robert, can you tell us a little about what you think Skip Smasher does that sets it apart?
Absolutely, Mike. First of all, I'll say that phone searches are just huge for Skip Smasher. We're doing things with phone numbers that no other data service is doing. But again, this comes back to my earlier comment that it's great to have more than one data service. Neil brought up TLO's vehicle sightings product, which is a brilliant product. I love that product, and that's an example of something you can only get at TLO if you're in this space. Likewise, Skip Smasher has our Cell Stinger product, which is the only real-time phone locator in the industry that actually shows you where the person is standing, even if he's standing on a street corner at a specific given moment in time. So phone numbers are huge for us. Obviously, we need to be strong in the people search and emails as well, because that's where the market is today. That's what people want as well. But I would say, again, every service has something special. So you're really going to come down to, when I'm making my decision, who am I going to maintain my accounts with? You're going to be looking at data quality. You're going to be looking at price. You're going to be looking at, hey, what is the special thing that, look, especially if I'm going to be offering skip tracing services to, attorneys. I want to be able to bring something to the table that they're not going to be able to bring, because attorneys are going to have an account with LexisNexis or whoever. They're going to be able to run people searches. So when they flip that case over to you, you need to have some resources to go to that they don't have, so that you can come up with some leads that they don't have. Otherwise, you're just going to end up reworking the leads that they've already given you.
Very, very good point, Robert. And just for clarification or edification, I own a fairly good-sized skip tracing company, and I use all 3 products of the 3 companies that are represented here on this panel. And they're all used quite a lot. Neil talked about the waterfall. For those of you out there that don't know what that means, it's sort of your process methodology for which database do you go to first and then which one do you go to next, kind of thing. And we find that it really depends on what type of job it is and who our client is. if I know I have a client that always uses a TLO before they send me a job, that's not going to be my first stop. It'll probably be my second or third stop. And we use the unlimited product out of Clear, and we use Robert quite a lot for phone numbers and for the cell stinger. It's a great product. Every once in a while, it really works for us. So rather than putting you guys in a position to have to advertise your products, I think you did a great job, and I'll let you know that they're all three quite good products that we use regularly. So thank you, Robert, for that, and thank you all for that. I wanted to ask a question about sort of the old school skip tracing, and we'll start with Amanda on this. Most skip tracers, new skip tracers today, use almost entirely the address history for their skip tracing. I learned how to skip trace in the old days when there were no address history products. We learned from what we call true public record. We've located people with things like corporations and UCCs and fictitious business names and property ownership and stuff like that. How do you find that today, Amanda? Are your skip tracers more focused on the address histories? And what else do you offer that you think should be part of a standard skip trace when, especially for a process server who's going to have generally fairly easy jobs, but every once in a while is going to run into just exactly the same kind of tough locate that anyone else would?
Absolutely. Yeah, good question. I definitely agree with you that it's simply not address history, although that can be great, and it's nice to see kind of a reverse chronological look at where subjects lived and who's sourcing them there. Huge clues exist in all the various data providers out there. I know one of my favorite, we've talked about this, is the fact that in one of the Clear versions of the reports, users could access, literally gives you real-time motor vehicle, not citing, so this isn't the DMV citing, but it's telling you what that particular state's DMV lists for their current address. It's a live source of information. And so I think that's a great clue as to where someone could be, because if that's where they're sending their tabs, they could very well be in that house. And then another big clue that, again, we're hearing it from all these experts on the panel, the ability to kind of look under the hood of a phone. I mean, there's so much important data for a cell phone, whether it's a burner cell, whether it's a Verizon cell, or whether it goes to Target's pharmaceutical line. I mean, I definitely use the reverse phone system in my product line to kind of do an intelligence gathering on my subject. And then the third prong I look to, I'm working on hard to locate skips, is the fact that relatives data comes into our product. I'm certain other products bring this in as well. And knowing where your relatives live is often a huge clue as to where your subject could be, because you have couch hoppers, you have all sorts of reasons you're not finding somebody's footprint in all the various ways you go look for them, but you see, 4 relatives live in a 4-block radius, you might have a good clue where your subject could be. So those are kind of my insights as to what I'd be looking to, but definitely agree with you. It's not simply look at a reverse address and figure out where they are at those, because there's a reason you guys all have an industry devoted to what you do.
All right, excellent answer, Amanda. Neil, have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I liked Amanda's comment with the relatives. A couple of things that we offer over here in the TLXP product are we have an address report that will build a comprehensive report, not just based by a subject, but by an address. So meaning that you can have 4 or 5 people that might share an apartment. So you learn some traits on those people. You'll get their cell phone numbers, you get their non-published number at the address, you get the vehicles registered at that address, not on just the person you're looking for, but on the person that might be a spouse, girlfriend, roommate that they might go out and leave an apartment complex from. I think that's important. We offer a very large range of phone numbers, which really makes us stand out in the TLXP product. When you see phone numbers on our initial search, you'll see sometimes 6, 8, 10 phone numbers. What you're going to find is not just numbers for that individual. It's also going to be a number for a spouse, for a place of business. We have a lot of POE, place of employment information on our database as well, which is also very helpful in locating a skip for a service. It's just and what's great about our database in the waterfall scenario we talked about earlier, we don't have a monthly minimum. We don't make customers lock into flat rate contracts. You know, use us as you will, and you're going to find some great stuff here, Mike. So I'm not trying to sell again, but I'm just trying to go back to, you know, using a database, dig deeper, learn what's out there. Our Edge reports is awesome for the process server.
All right, thank you. Robert, can you talk a little bit more about phone numbers and how skip tracers need good phone numbers and how they should be using them?
Oh, absolutely, Mike. In fact, when I was a working private investigator and I was taking a phone call from an existing client with a new case or a new client, about halfway through that conversation, which was probably the most important question I would have for them, but I would kind of bury it halfway through the conversation, and that was, do you have a good phone number for the person? And by a good phone number, I mean you call, they pick up an answer, or you call and you hear their voice on the voicemail. You know that's a good phone number for them. And to me, that meant as a skip tracer, hey, I was one step away from locating that person because I had a good phone number. I just had to find out where it was based out of. So for me, the phone number is an absolutely huge and critical step in the skip tracing process. Obviously, investigating phone numbers has never been more complex than it is today because of the fragmentation of the phone industry between cell phones and prepaid and VoIPs and landlines. So, you know, when an investigator jumps in to investigate a phone number, number one, I want to know, does it still go to the person? Because to me, that's going to go to the very top of my list on the skip trace. And then once they start investigating that phone number, the first thing they really need to do is determine what kind of phone number that is, because that's going to determine how hard it will be to break to a real location. And the simple way to do that is a telephone company lookup, or it's also called an NPA NXX lookup. There's a lot of places on the web that do that for free, and I think most of the data services include that as a free lookup as well. I know Skip Smasher does. And from that point forward, then I'm going to decide how much time and energy I'm going to put into that phone number. For example, if I find that that's a real landline, I'm all over that thing, because I know landlines are pretty easy to break, and there's a very good chance that if that guy's either answering the phone or it's his voicemail, he's going to be there unless he's doing something very squirrely like forwarding to some other location.
All right. And I'll just interject here that you know, we get phone numbers from all the sources, all three companies, and our skip tracing. And my skip tracers will call every single phone number that they find in any database, no matter how it looks like it might be related to the subject, because you just never know. I know in TLO they put percentages next to the phone numbers. Do you still do that, Neil? I haven't looked in a while because I'm not one of the skip tracers, but are there still percentages next to the list of phone numbers?
Yeah, there certainly are. And the higher percentage ones are better. But, you know, I'll go back to say I'll use every number. Our skip tracers should utilize every one. We've also just, we're undertaking a program right now where we bought a huge list, millions of disconnected phone numbers that a source had, and we're scrubbing it through our database right now to weed out the disconnected numbers, so to make our scoring better and to make our customers happier. Because obviously we have a feature in our database that's unhappy, so you can see people, if they will run a number, reverse lookup, and they'll say unhappy, they'll say disconnected phone number. You don't want the customer experience to not be great. You want Skip's tracer to get the best information possible as quickly as possible. So we're very cognizant of, you know, freshness of data, and you know, we have data scientists here that programmers here that are amazing, working with the algorithms. You know, we got really cool stuff here.
Very good. All right. Let me ask Amanda, how do you think that the industry is changing right now, and where do you expect us to be in 3 to 5 years as far as the data industry itself and the technologies surrounding the industry? Where do you see that industry going right now?
Well, start that one with me. Thanks.
There's no wrong answer here, Amanda. It's fine.
Yeah. You know, I definitely, it's a really exciting space to work in. I think all of us have the coolest jobs out there. And I'm coming from a former lawyer, so I mean, I can tell you it's much more fun to be on the data side. So where I see it going, one thing I like to say to accounts and anybody I'm talking to, the individuals who will be watching us, if you think of how recent the iPhone, even just the phone technology, we're talking June 2000, I wrote it down, June 2007 is when that device came to market. And so much has changed since the advent of even a tool like that. So the reality is information will be golden. The ability for machines to do what we're all used to doing, that's simply going to be the continuation of what we're seeing. I think data privacy is a big issue. I know TLO faces it on its data readers right now. We at Thomson Reuters in the clear environment, we're all under legislative scrutiny. It's not going away. The fact is we have to work hand in hand with privacy concerns, and it's a fair concern, right? We can understand consumers' concerns. And then so you have this technology plus data privacy. Those are two big trends I see spearheading what's going to come down the pike for us. But I think we were thinking about kind of that phone locate, that we're hearing, the ability just to kind of know exactly where a subject is sitting and using a phone. That is live. We see it right here in the products we're talking about. So, I just think the reality is that anybody in this space, if you're frankly just relying on kind of open source but not coming to specialists who create these pretty powerful tools to help you do locates today, you're missing a large part of the opportunity in this space. Because the one thing I do think is if you could stand out in this space, so those of you who do skip tracing, and those of you in the investigative space and getting that service process work, if you can show your expertise, forward thinking, we're ahead, we have 2 or 3 data vendors we rely on, we know how critical information is, we're staying abreast of the technology here, that to me makes you win more business in this space because that's where it's moving to in my personal opinion.
All right, excellent, Amanda. Robert, what's your thoughts on where you think the industry's going over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, Mike, I think Amanda's instincts are spot on. There's kind of 2 issues that are competing in my view. One is there's this kind of issue out there of increased government regulation, and that's is something that we just don't know what's going to happen with, and it does all come out of privacy concerns. And this industry could radically change if the regulation comes down on it. If that does not happen, my view is very positive. There's some big trends happening out there. In my view, the cost of computing is continuing to exponentially drop. As you know, a terabyte of data, 10 or 15 years ago was considered a huge amount of data and was very costly to assemble and to work with, to dedupe, to transfer, to copy. Today, that's only a few clicks of the mouse to somebody who's working in the Amazon cloud, just as an example of where computing power has gone and is going to continue to go. But that might sound geeky to a skip tracer out there, but really what that means is that allows the data companies to store more data and connect more dots. It gives us the opportunity to have more little pieces of data that we can connect to other pieces of data, to open up other pieces of data, to do some pretty amazing things. So on the whole, I'm very positive as to where it's going. Price-wise, I think it's going to continue to actually be a pretty good bang for the buck as far as skip tracers are concerned. And the reason for that is there is a lot of competition in the space. And as we know, when there's a lot of competition, the prices stay low.
All right, excellent. Neil, you have anything else you want to add to where you think the industry's going in the next several years?
Yeah, sure, Mike. And kind of just to piggyback on what Robert was saying, and obviously, Robert, you have a lot of knowledge just from running the Skip Smasher over there, and people like myself and the process server people out there that appreciate that. But what I was just going to mention is there is legislation out there that is always looking to close data holes, to close sourcing. We had a town hall today here at TransUnion with Jim Peck, our CEO, and he talked about uses of data in the future. It's 2016, 2017, where he saw data regulations going, and his feeling is just as long as we're working to utilize data that we have for risk mitigation, and if it's used for the proper purposes, that it's to be used for good purposes, that there should be nobody stopping the regulation of data, just as long as there's not somebody out there that starts dealing in an unregulated space that's selling something that is not copacetic, not good information, and that might be skirting the laws. That would hurt everybody. But typically, everybody in this space is following regulations and is, playing fair, so to speak. We don't have any rogue outfits that are out there that are going to muddy the water for all of us, like has happened in the past. So that's what we're looking forward to for the future.
All right, excellent. Let's talk a little bit more about process servers offering skip tracing, and let's say that a server does do skip tracing. When they send a server out into the field, and I'll throw this question out to all of you, whoever starts talking first we'll just give them the spot. But thinking of server knocks on somebody's door, and there's no answer at the door. What do you think that they should be doing while they're in the field to help the skip tracer that's back in their office, so that when they bring the job back and the client says, yes, go ahead and do the skip trace, some of that work's been done already? What is it that the server can do in the field to help the skip tracing effort?
Mike, I'll take that one first if you don't mind. Yeah, I'll take that first if you don't mind. Which is, this would be the subject of another webinar, because we could definitely talk an hour or more about this. But this is a great question for owners of process serving companies. It really comes down to what is expected of your person when they're out in the field. Going out, knocking on the door, getting no answer and coming back can not be an acceptable answer for somebody who wants to run an effective skip tracing operation. I'll just tell you, when I was a PI working in the street, there's a lot of things I would do. And when I'd go out to a location, I'm going out there not to see how little information I can come back with if I don't make the serve successfully. I'm going out there looking to see how much information I can bring back. And I think that's the mindset that you need. But just to rattle off a few things that would be expected, and if I was running a process serving company and I had people out in the field, and you get you knock on the door and there's no answer. Hey, if it's an apartment building, I want you checking the mailbox. Is there a name on the mailbox? If there's a gas meter that's in a public area or an electric meter, I want you to go and check it, because in a lot of places they'll write down the name of the customer with a grease pencil on that meter. It's just something that the employees of the gas or electric company in the field do. You always want to knock on a neighbor's door for sure. See if you can get any information. You want to talk to the manager of the apartment building, and if the manager's not there, you want to get their phone number so that people in the office can come back and make a phone call to see if they can verify or eliminate the person is there. And then finally, I would say vehicles are just huge. Okay, when I roll up on that location, first of all, I like to go to a location knowing the person's vehicle, because then I know if I've got them or not. If I get out to that location and I see their car there, then I know there's a high probability that they're there. And in fact, if they don't open the door because they know the serve is coming, I might do a stakeout on their car and see if I can catch them coming to the vehicle. So I always want to check, hopefully I'll have that license plate going out there. If not, I want to document the license plates that are parked at the location, maybe even snap a few cell phone photos for my client, so that later, if a known vehicle, the subject comes up, hey, there's no question, that vehicle was there because I documented the cars that were in the driveway at the time when I was there. Thanks, Mike.
So, Robert, that was an excellent answer. Neil, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, obviously, Robert, we can see that you earned your stripes with service of process. I would agree. I spent a lot of time in the day typically trying to serve people that didn't want to be served, and that's probably one of the big issues that the process server out there has. They'll knock on the door and the person's expecting service, if it be for the foreclosure market, which is still open, or for whatever reason. Whenever I would like to know every vehicle at an address before I got there, that would be typically what I'd like the information I'd like to have for my skip tracer, or when I got there, I'd call the skip tracer before I went to the door to if I wasn't able to do it in the field myself, to have that skip tracer run the plates that are sitting around the home. Additionally, looking at the buzzer board if it's an apartment building, find the name that's there. reverse the whole address for all the phone numbers at the address. I would do a lot of reconnaissance before, so to speak, before I would roll up on that door to go knocking on it, because typically the process server knows, I don't know the percentages would be, and I'm sure they would think they're pretty low, how many times they've knocked on the door that somebody was very amenable to opening the door and greet them with open arms, say thank you for that service of papers for my ex-wife. I'm so happy to see you. I know that the process servers out there, and that's not the scenario. So, the information is king. Have your ducks lined up before you go out there. But most of the times you roll up on an address, I'll go back to the time of day you go out there. You'd love to get them on the way to work or coming home from work at night. That would be another key. So I won't go on too much.
All right. Thank you very much, Neil. I think we're going to wrap it up pretty much. I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to sort of, give us a quick closing statement, anything else that you'd like to add in regard to how process servers can offer skip tracing. Real quickly, and then I'll call on Amanda first. I have found over the years that attorneys are don't have a problem providing skip tracing jobs to their process servers, that if you do, rather than sending back the job, a bad address to your client to send out to an investigator, if you keep that bad address and you do the locate in-house, you're going to have that paper in-house to go back out and serve again when you find the new address. As opposed to when you send the paper back to your client, who then sends it to an investigator. When the investigator does the skip trace, he's likely going to be the one to go out and serve that paper. So you gain the skip trace job and another process serving job by keeping the job in-house, and I think that's a great idea, and one of the main reasons you want to offer the service if you can. So in closing then, Amanda, anything else you'd like to add to this conversation?
I definitely agree that if you are a skip tracing solution today and you don't have a dedicated type environment to do in-house skip tracing, you're turning away business. To your point, just a differentiator. There's a lot out there not using the best tools, and when you are actually using tools, you will find your clients pay for a guaranteed process service taking place. So I just would reiterate, this is a great time to be investigating all the products out there. I'm sure we all offer access to kind of kick the tires on these type of products. So I'd really be excited to make sure anyone had an opportunity to take a look at Clear.
All right. Thank you, Amanda, very much. Robert, any closing thoughts?
Well, yeah, Mike, I would say if the question is the process serving company that does not currently offer skip tracing, and they're going to go down that road, what do they need to know? If you were a friend asking me that question, my answer to you would be think hard about what you're going to bring to the table that your existing clients don't already have. You've got to have more than just a people search to go out there and chase addresses. You've got to either have some experience skip tracing or some type of a game plan on what you're going to bring to the table that your customers have not already brought to the table. A lot of people can run a people search. That doesn't automatically make you a skip tracer. So I think you need to consider exactly what you're going to do to take that game up and offer more than your client currently has.
All right.
Obviously, that gets into the issue of training and how to learn about how to learn to skip trace as well. That's something that I would say that there's not a lot of opportunities out there to learn skip tracing. It's kind of an art form that is not very well publicized. There's not schools and institutes to go to learn how to do that. So if you can certainly find and hire an experienced skip tracer, you would be jumping ahead in the game.
Excellent. And I can tell you that the best way to learn how to skip trace, if you can pull it off, and especially if you have somebody behind you that can do the tough ones that you get stuck on, The best way to learn how to skip trace is to do it, is to skip trace. And process servers can get a volume of skip tracing, and with the training opportunities that all three companies that are represented here, they all offer really good training opportunities. If you take advantage of those training opportunities, go to any seminars that you can, read books on skip tracing, and do the work yourself. You can learn how to skip trace quickly enough to do the easy ones that would come to a process serving company. So thank you very much, Robert. Neil, do you have any closing statements you'd like to make?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And just to kind of follow up on what Mike is saying, go to the conferences. Go to the ServeCon. What an excellent idea. This is great, a way to interact. But also go to live events in your city, in your state, in a different state. If you see a guy like Mike Dores sitting there who's going to do a skip tracing seminar, you'd be a moron, excuse my language, not to jump in on that. I've seen Mike do his skip tracing, and I'm blown away. I learned so much from spending time with Mike at these seminars and conferences. Go to a PI conference. Go to a collections conference that you see, and look at the people that are the speakers. Go to a booth. If you see a TransUnion TLO guy there, go speak to him. It's myself or it's Robert or somebody else at these shows. We go to a lot of events, and I really like the fact that there's a lot more education out there in the skip tracing space. And if you can grab 30 minutes with a guy like Mike, a guy like Robert, or Amanda, I don't know if you travel, or myself, I go to conferences. I love to speak to every skip tracer, every process server, every PI out there. It's fun. Share war stories and say, how did you find that guy? I was in Texas a year or so ago, and it was a death penalty case. And he was a PI, but he was basically just trying to find a witness in a death penalty case. So we just sat down and kind of talked about the ways to do things. And he kind of, utilized a TLO account on his laptop at my station. And I said, look over here, reverse the number. Lo and behold, he was able to find an individual in New Orleans that with a close name and to the witness he was looking for. And, in the end, he was able to find the connectors out there. And you just kind of share information, share stories. But we have here with TransUnion TLXP, the product, we are very interactive with our customers. We sometimes have 3 levels of customer support from our customers spending $5 a month to our customers spending $10,000 a month. We have those in the process server space. We're built for the small process server. We want your business. We don't charge a minimum. You come in, you can walk out with a locate under $5, and you're happy. You make money. You show your client that you're able to write an invoice, but with the invoice, you also have a report that matches up to it to show the stuff that you learned from your skip tracing, to build a story. As you build your story, you build your invoice. And that's a lot of stuff that I like to preach when I go around. And I have a lot of fun when I get to interact with the people out there. So like I said, you see a Mike Dores, you see a Robert Scott, man, that's the best source of information that you're ever going to have. I mean, there's other people out there that speak at these conferences about skip tracing. Bend their ear. Everybody has something that's unique to offer. You're not going to have, as a new skip tracer, new processor server, you're not going to learn it in your first 3 months how to do stuff. You're going to learn by the School of Hard Knocks. But you're better off learning from shared experiences. Network with other process servers. And call me up. Call me up at TransUnion. TLO. My name is Neil Cadell. You can call me, ask for me. They get me on the phone every day. I probably got 25 calls waiting for me when I get back to my desk from here. But I have a lot of fun with this, and I know everybody on the panel does as well. And I really want to thank you, Mike, for inviting me on this panel, and the other people here. It was really a lot of fun to share experiences here. I look forward to doing this again with you guys. So that's really what I have to offer, Mike, and I hope to hear from all the fine process servers out there at the ServeCon conference.
All right. Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you, Robert and Amanda. And we'll see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.